give this?
I don't know.
How do we do this? One of the things I was going to try.
Here,
I was
look
going
at
to try.
You have a little in that side of your corner of your lip. Yep. I'll do that. No, it's still there. It's like up in there.
Welcome to A Spirited Life. I'm Mark.
I'm Christine.
And today we're going to be taking a look at our quarterly goals. It's time for that check-in at the end of the quarter to see how we did and see what we need to adjust.
Our whiskey of the week is going to be tied into what brought joy to our spirit. So we'll talk about both of those together.
We want to live a spirited life. We're documenting our journey towards financial independence while balancing that with living in the present and enjoying our time in the journey. While we want to work towards financial independence, there's no guarantee for what tomorrow will bring. So we don't want to wait to enjoy our lives because tomorrow isn't promised. We want to share our journey to help keep ourselves intentional and accountable, and we invite you to come along with us as we work towards living a spirited life. Every week we like to talk about a whiskey of the week that usually ties in with the theme for the week. This week we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to talk about what filled our spirit, and we're going to talk about the whiskey of the week at the same time because those two things are tied together. We went down to Columbus to Middlewest Spirits. Cameron Leach, who runs Drums and Drams, invited us to come help with the barrel pick. And one of the bottles that we picked up while we were there was this bottle from Middlewest Spirits. This was a cask strength dark pumpernickel rye that they had done as a selection for the staff and was available in the bottle shop. Mm-hmm. And so while we were there doing the barrel pick and we did the tour and everything like that, we picked up this bottle.
Yeah, the first thing, I love Middlewest. It's been one of my first whiskeys that I've really enjoyed, that I picked out as one of my favorite types, first distillery that I really got attachment to. So going down there and doing the barrel pick was awesome. We got there a little early, shocking maybe, because we kind of had pretty far to drive. We met Kyle, who was running the barrel pick, talking about him, and he's kind of from the same area, so we had a lot of connections, and they just talk about different barrel picks that they've done. Yeah, and Kyle mentioned that this particular barrel pick was something that the staff of Middlewest did. Everything from anyone that worked at the service bar, which is their on-site kitchen, all the way up to anyone that worked in the office.
Yeah, so if you're in the Columbus, Ohio area and you're interested in trying a Middlewest pick that we are sipping on today, you can actually pick this up in their bottle shop that's available right there. It was a really great experience to sit down, get an opportunity. Again, Cam, so gracious to invite us along and give us the opportunity to, one, get a tour of the distillery, and two, help him pick out a whiskey that he's going to make available to his patrons. So if you're interested in that, make sure you check out Drums and Drams on YouTube, and you can find out more about the barrel that we picked as a part of that. We had a group of 9 all together that went through, sampled, talked about it. What was your favorite part of that?
My favorite part was just the conversation and the laughter that came about with people hanging out and trying different whiskeys. I was intimidated at first because it takes a while for my palate to warm up, and I'm not an elite palate taster. Going and seeing the wide range of palate abilities that everyone had, and then just the different personalities, and just having fun, laughing, and sharing a drink.
Yeah, and the 9 of us didn't really know each other. Like, you know, a couple of folks knew a couple of folks here and there, but we really had a great time and got along really well. And, you know, a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion about the whiskey, a wide variety of experiences amongst the group, but we still were able to come together and make a really great selection. And I'm looking forward to maybe getting an opportunity to try that again in the future. But in the meantime, let's go ahead and let's get into this dark pumpernickel rye. This was barrel 216. And what's interesting about that, not only was that previously the area code where we live, but this is also a very low barrel number. And so this is one of their older barrels that would have been done in a 30-gallon cask instead of in a 53-gallon cask, which imparts different characteristics and it changes the aging process. And so they've switched away from that and they've moved to almost all 53-gallon barrels. So it's nice to be able to get one of these 30-gallon barrels and have that experience while they're still available.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and let's
On the nose.
a little bit on the nose there.
I get a mint.
Yeah, a little minty.
Get the burn.
And we literally just poured this, so this
Just
may
cracked
may
it.
still even need a little bit of time to open up. So
Can't go wrong with 216.
no, but it's hard to go wrong. And if you can see on the camera here, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see how dark this is, just based on what you can see through the camera. All right, let's give her a sip.
Okay.
Cheers.
Cheers. Oh. She's poofy.
Yeah, still pretty.
I'm
proofy.
gonna need to come back for another
Okay.
sip after my mouth acclimates.
Yeah, some really nice richness, right off the bat, and then really strong mid to late palate overall. Definitely a bit of ethanol in this. This is 129.9 proof, so just about 130 proof.
Mm-hmm.
And getting into it, getting a little bit of some of the dark fruits on the mid palate. Definitely get a bit of the oak on the late palate.
Mm-hmm. I still get that minty that I got on my nose, like that.
I'm definitely getting it more now
Spearmint?
that I've had a sip, and it's coming across as a bit of a spearmint note. Maybe not as vegetal as some of the other ryes, but it's
No.
definitely there. It's riding underneath everything.
I'm getting that bready, and I don't know if it's because I know it's a dark pumpernickel, so I think pumpernickel bread, and it's a rye. But I'm getting like the Outback Steakhouse bread vibe to it with the mint and with the darker fruits.
Yeah, on the second sip, I'm definitely getting a lot of mint in the mid to late palate. There's some sort of fruit on the front palate. It's not quite fig.
Mm-mm. It's not plum.
It's not plum. It's kind of hard to pinpoint. And then definitely getting almost a bit of leatheriness on the finish.
It lasts a while on your tongue.
Yeah,
it lasts.
Yeah, the finish really holds out on this one. It's really nice. Really well done overall. And I will say, I know Middlewest is working on their distribution. They're distributed in 46 states right now. Even if you can find their regular offerings, their regular bourbon, their regular wheat whiskey, their regular dark pumpernickel rye, even that's not cask strength, those are absolutely wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
But if you get an opportunity to try a cask strength one, they are fantastic because of the amount of depth that they have, the amount of flavor that they have in them. And really, it's a bit of a unique experience with some of the flavors that I get out of this that I sometimes don't often get with, some of the other ryes and things like that.
And what I also learned too while we were down there is that they are grain to glass. They know exactly where everything's coming from. They're coming mostly from local farms.
That's right. They talked about that. So that was nice to hear.
Their barrels are from somewhere Jackson, Ohio.
Yeah, I can't place it. It's some sort of a fruit note, but not
I'd
really.
say date, but I don't know what a date tastes like.
You know what it is? It's like dried apricots or dried peaches. If you've had dried apricots or dried peaches, that's on the front of the palate. That's that fruit that's coming through.
Mm-hmm.
And it's where the difference is at in that flavor is, how dried apricots, the meat of those kind of have that richer texture to them and that richer flavor to
that,
them.
like thickness.
Yeah, it's more, the word I'll use is it's more condensed. It's a more condensed, sugary.
Yeah.
That's what I'm getting. The flavor is very condensed and very strong. It's very poignant, starting right at the front of the palate.
It's like when you get those bags of the dried apricots, yeah.
That's exactly what
I can see that.
And so if you sit there, and maybe this is kind of weird, but this is part of what I do. I'll sit there and I'll tear strips of the skin off, and then I'll eat the meat of the fruit. It's that. It's just the meat of it. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I got it.
So anyway, great.
Yeah. Proofy. You feel it. Gives you the hiccups, but
Yeah.
I think after the first initial burn or two, and it opens up, and then I become acclimated, it becomes a lot smoother.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we'll really enjoy this one as it starts to open up a little bit more. And it gets a little bit of time with some air, both in the bottle and even in our glasses.
Mm-hmm.
And so with that, let's talk about time. Let's talk about this quarter and how we did.
Okay, who wants to go first?
All right, either I can go first or you can go first. What's your choice?
I think you should go first.
You think I should go first?
Yeah, how was your quarter? What was your reflection and how did it go?
Yeah, so when I reflected back on the quarter, and I thought about some of the goals, and I'm looking at my goal page that I set out, and I take a look at this. I did pretty bad.
Sorry, not to laugh.
No, it's okay. I did pretty bad in terms of the way that I laid out the goals. And I had a good feeling that this was going to happen because I tried to keep things simple for consistency and I tried to do some things. But I talked about this earlier in one of the earlier podcasts that I didn't do a good job of setting up my systems for success and being able to make sure that the right things were in place to be able to help me be successful with these new habits. And I started to make some changes on some of the anchoring and started to see a little bit of success and didn't see enough change in that. So I doubled down and starting this past week, recognizing that I needed to change some of this going into quarter 2. And I'll talk a little bit more about that later, about how that's already starting to work better. But just taking a look, saying, hey, I wanted to have more reading consistency. Part of what that was supposed to be was to help grow my knowledge, to build a habit of learning, to make sure that I was reading. Now, here's what I'll say. If the goal was about growing my knowledge and building a habit of learning, I was trying to do more reading, more book reading. I did not do that. But what I will say is I listened to more podcasts and listened to more topics across the podcast than I have at any other time in my life. And I would say that I probably got more information out of those podcasts. So while I didn't accomplish the goal the way that I wanted to, in terms of spending more time reading, and I'm going to come back to that, and I do still want to do that because there's certain things I can really only get and only learn through reading. I feel like I still hit at least some of the things here in terms of growing my knowledge and building a habit of learning and trying to make sure that I'm still flexing those mental muscles.
So your overall intent was kind of hit. Just the way that you went about it was different.
Correct. And so this is kind of the difference between output and outcomes. The output would have been, hey, I've read this many books or I've done this many days of reading to get the outcome of growing my knowledge and build my learning. I didn't get that output, but I got to the outcome. And I'm okay with that to a degree. I still need to, like I said, do some more reading because there's some topics specifically that I can't get through a podcast or even through like blogs or things like that. So I still need to work on how much I'm reading and do that more consistently and find a way to prioritize some of that. Again, we'll talk about that later. In the finance space, where my systems are set up really well, where a lot of that is automated for me, generally did pretty well in terms of be disciplined in my spending so that I can direct money to investments. As measured by the number of times that I spend more money than I have in my budget. We budgeted for a lot of things. And again, opted to flex in particular places, knowing that there's certain things that are getting front loaded this year. And one of the things that we had to do was intentionally choose to spend over our budget. And we talked about that. We went on our trip to Florida. And that's okay. We knew that was the case. A couple other things have come up where we have events that are coming later in the year. We needed to do a little bit of spending now on those. Again, intentional spending now, knowing that we're going to reserve spending later so that the balance is out in the long run. So overall, I'm okay with that. That, and in terms of like retirement investment, very happy with where I landed on that. So feel good on that. Last one to talk about for me is the health one, which is, hey, trying to build a healthier lifestyle and improve my overall health as measured by the number of times I work out. And this one I started pretty strong on, and then I did not anchor it the way that I should have. And so it was hit or miss. I definitely did more working out than I would have done had I not thought about it. but I definitely didn't do enough
Mm-hmm.
to hit my goal. And I definitely did not see the decrease in my weight the way that I wanted to. Now I've stayed steady. So I'm still where I was before at 260, but I definitely wanted to be lower by this point. My goal was to be somewhere between like 255 and 250. So overall, lots of opportunity. But in that, as I reflect back on the quarter and some of the other things that we did, some of the outcomes that we had, where we made some of those intentional choices, where we did some things differently, where, hey, I was still able to grow my knowledge and things like that. I was still able to learn about some things. I was still able to do some additional things when I was walking, listening to podcasts, watching YouTube videos, those kinds of things. We were still able to go have a fantastic time down in Florida, right? Now, like that was a great trip.
Yep.
And, you know, we took advantage of some additional opportunities as they came up. So when then there was an opportunity to go to the Irish Cask and Craft, we hooked up with some friends and we went over to that. And Cam invited us to the barrel pick. We said, yes, hey, let's go do that. So I feel really good about those things. I will talk later when we get into, okay, what are we going to do differently to try to improve on this next quarter? You know, I'll talk a little bit about that then. But overall, I guess I feel okay.
That's good.
I don't feel great. I don't feel terrible. I'm not going to beat myself up too much.
You're not so defeated that you're like, screw it.
Because this is our first go at it, I want to make sure that I don't come down too hard on myself, but I do want to look critically and be able to improve on that.
Smart.
How about you?
It was good. I don't think I achieved what I expected to achieve, but I think I wasn't going to. I think my expectations were too high for myself. So I'll just go through my thing. So my financial was really to set a budget and stick to it. I was moving from a full-time position to a part-time-ish position. So my inflow of cash was going to be severely limited based on what it used to be. So it was really to make sure that I was able to meet my bills and everything and still take care of all the things that I need to do financially. Obviously, I haven't been able to invest so much extra. I do have money that is slotted to go to the IRA. But I think overall that I did splurge on a few areas. The Irish cask event, craft and cask event, getting a few more bottles than expected. I got some more camping things, but the sale was really good for the pants. So where I'm spending upfront now, it's better than waiting till later and maybe having to pay more. But it also did not impact my ability to meet my expectations that I set for myself of being able to, you know, pay my bills, gas in the car, like all these other things that I need to do.
Yeah. I think you did a good job of being intentional about how you spent, where you spent. And when we were talking about getting, you know, new camping pants for you and things like that, you were intentional about, hey, I want to buy something that's a little bit better quality. I'm going to spend more money on that so that they'll last longer. And I will be happier with my purchase in the long run. And the overall cost for the lifetime of that garment is actually going to be the same or less than if I would have bought cheaper stuff that maybe was not as good. Yeah.
So I think my financial, I did well. I could have been a little more strict on my budget, but I don't feel like I was like a failure in that area. I feel good about it.
Good.
My health was, 10-minute stretching every day, 3 times a week strength training, focusing on healthy eating choices. That I'll say I'll give myself a passing C.
Okay.
I am stretching on a more regular basis, practically every day. Working out, strength training has ebb and flowed based on whether I'm at work. Is it easier to go to the gym? I've been sick a little bit more, so I haven't been on top of that. My healthy eating is always a struggle with me, so I'm learning when I put my focus on, and this we'll talk about later on what we're going to do next. When I really put that hyper focus on, you have to work out, you have to eat well, I don't do so well. And then the moment I end up with like not the best 2 or 3 days in a row, then I'm like, forget it. So I'm learning to kind of what my next steps are and kind of what my triggers are and how to set myself up to help me get into the shape that I want to be in that area.
Good. And again, I think it's good for you to recognize some of those triggers that are working well for you or where some of those stumbling blocks are. So then you can adjust on those. That's great.
And then my last one is my life slash growing knowledge. This has been hit or miss. I set up a whole bunch of things that I wanted to do, garden, seed plan, bird classes, editing. I threw a lot at the wall. I think I threw too much. And I really kind of pared it down. One, editing has kind of been on the back burner because my computer really frustrates me and annoys me. And you work on your computer, and our work hours and our not work hours just haven't been aligning the best for me to really take over. I've done it a few times, but not as much as I thought I was going to.
To be fair, I do a lot of gaming on that PC also. So that is a me getting in the way kind of thing.
No. And then we tried it on my laptop, and it just the hesitation, and then I would get mad, and then once I get mad and frustrated, it's just downhill from there.
Yeah.
But I'm very proud of my garden steps that I've made.
You've done awesome with that.
If I look at I haven't finished my online bird classes. They're just some basic bird classes from Cornell Bird Lab thing or whatever. So I haven't finished those, but a lot of it's gone into gardening, where I'm starting to set up a mindful plan of where I'm planting things in the backyard. I've started a bunch of seeds down in the basement. Some have now moved outside. I still have some going. And then I added some more seeds that are so far growing, and then learning kind of what I want it to look like in the future. And then also starting to pay attention of, I don't throw everything in. I don't have to throw everything in the ground now. Learning how to space out. Because so what's my summer planting going to be? Is it going to be the beets and the turnips and the things that could be cooler, cooler vegetables or cooler crops? Do I do spinach later? I think I'm definitely taking more of a mindful and intentional approach to what I want the gardening to be like.
Yeah.
And so far I haven't quit. So that's a bonus.
Absolutely. And one thing I'll say about that is I think you did bite off a lot in terms of, hey, there's a lot of stuff that I want to try and do. But also, as that thing resonated with you in the gardening, that's where you spent a lot of your time, and that's where you've had a lot of your effort. And it shows in the outcomes that you have, where you've definitely been doing some of your knowledge and growth in that regard. You've got growth literally right over on the other side of the basement here.
I got a lot of growth.
You've got your plants, and you've set up everything where you've got multiple tiers with lights, and you've got a whole system for managing that, and you're planning out what that's going to be outside, and you've thought about, just like what you talked about, hey, where are these all going to go? And that is awesome that you are doing all of this to build that out, to start to develop that hobby. And I think what you're naturally doing is what we often do, which is you are going to the thing that resonates with you and that you're enjoying a lot, and you're delving into that. You're letting the other things fall away. And that's all right.
But yeah, I think with the gardening too, and some of my other habits, which we'll talk about later on how I'm going to be changing and adjusting them, it's really teaching me patience, which is not something I normally have. I am let's do it all right now, and I want the effects of it done right now. I don't wait. If I want something, I will try every means possible to get it as fast as I can. I can't do that with gardening. And I've talked myself back a few times, so I'm like, oh, there's some empty spots in the backyard. I need to get more plants. I'm like, no. I need to see what happens. It takes time. So I think, in a way, gardening, as much as I could do things. So I like things where I could be like, I do this. Oh, look, something happens. I'm very much a results based person.
Direct feedback.
Yeah.
Being able to react based on that feedback. Yep.
So that's where gardeners help. Okay, I do this. Look, stuff is growing. But now I'm in this waiting phase between the weathers being the weather for spring.
Right. Spring being spring.
Spring being spring. Fake spring. Real spring. Who knows? But it takes time for things to grow. And I'm learning, it's really helping me slow down. And kind of be more intentional, more mindful, and realizing sometimes less is more. Yeah. Which is going to lead into my next steps for my second quarter, kind of how I approach things.
Cool. So talk a little bit about that. Tell me a little bit more about how your approach is changing for second quarter.
So for second quarter, I'm learning kind of like what you say before with the gardening, where it resonates with me, where I have that buy-in. So I'm like, okay, I like working out. I really do like working out. I love doing all this stuff, but for some reason, I'm just not getting into a flow of it. So I kind of broke down like, okay, so how can I best get myself going, doing it? Usually it's if I have people that I have to hold accountable. I did really good when I worked with 2 other people that would go to the gym with me. So on lunchtime, like, if I didn't want to go, well, I still went because so-and-so went and they still went. So we all just went and it was fine. Now I'm kind of on my own for lunch break.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay, so what do I do? So I'm like, oh, I need something to work towards. I need a goal. I need an end date, an end product, and then something to be like, yeah, you did that. So I signed myself up for a 5K.
Good.
Which is, I have not run in over 5 years since I kind of sort of jacked up my foot.
Yeah.
So I haven't run in over 5 years. So it's practically starting at the beginning. But I did really good when I have to be able to do something by this date.
Mm-hmm.
So in having that deadline, that expectation for myself, it's helped me put up a plan. It's helped me kind of check things off, because if I don't hit these steps along the way, I might not be able to do what I signed myself up to do.
Right.
So I need that. It keep me accountable. It kind of gives me a nice structured framework to work into.
You've made a commitment, is what you've done. And you feel a responsibility to that commitment. And so that is helping to motivate you and helping you to change your actions, which is a great way to make sure that you're doing the things that are important to you to help you get to the outcomes that you want to.
Well, and it has to be a different kind of commitment. I can't say I commit to you that I'm going to go to the gym 4 days a week. There's something where I have to practically sign my name on a dotted line type thing.
Yeah.
Like, I need that type of commitment. Not like I commit to myself and I'm telling so-and-so, like, I have to have, if you don't do it, you're going to fail at this end product.
Yeah. So it has characteristics of both internal and external motivation. So it is an external thing, but it's something that you chose to aspire to and chose to work to.
Yep.
So it is that internal motivation, and you added an external motivation to be able to do that. So it's cool that you set that up for yourself in terms of giving yourself both an external motivation, but it's something you internally decided to set up, so it strengthens that commitment back to what you're doing. What else?
I'm learning less can be more. I was very much of, I want to do it all. I want to learn it all. I want all these new habits. I want this stuff. So I would just throw it all at myself. And then that's when I wouldn't, I mean, you can't do it all. So that's when I kind of would get hiccups, and then I would get frustrated. I'd quit. So I'm learning really to take a step back, and less is more. Like, so set up my stuff where I don't need to have 5 hobbies that I'm trying to build at the same time.
Yeah.
Because I don't have enough time in a day to have 5 hobbies.
Absolutely.
So then I get frustrated.
Yeah.
So really picking 1 or 2 that resonate with me. Right now it's gardening. I'm also taking steps to grow my knowledge on a conscious discipline-based philosophy, because I'll be in a classroom more often.
Okay.
And that is kind of the theory and the philosophy that they go by.
Cool.
So I have those 2 main things. So I'm really going with less is more, and really focusing on the things that resonate with me, and focusing on the things that I find help me get going more. So getting a healthier lifestyle, where I would focus on, I have to cross off these many days of working out, and I have to eat under these many calories or whatnot. That was just too much. For some reason, it just didn't stick with me. So now I know if I run and if I work out more often, I tend to eat better. So instead of focusing on, I have to be crossing off these things on a diet, or checking these things, or doing all these things for my eating habits, I'm going to be focusing on the things that I really enjoy to do, which is the physical activity, which in the past has led to me eating better.
Yeah. So for me, what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be keeping a lot of the similar things and trying to change what I'm doing to help me be successful there. A lot of it is doubling down on my way that I'm managing myself and managing my time, and emphasizing that even more, because as we talked about in a previous episode, while I don't necessarily always like it, it is a lot of structure that actually helps me get to outcomes. And I have set myself up with a structure now. So I actually did weekly planning at the beginning of the week on Sunday. And I have been ticking things off in a visual management system and been using that to track how I've been doing.
Mm-hmm.
Already I'm starting to see some improvements in the things that I'm doing. Now, what I need to be able to do is I need to be able to continue to do that and prove that this is working well for me and prove that this is a system that is helping me get to the outcomes, and I need to do this consistently for the month. So my big goal for this month
Mm-hmm.
is actually to build out that system of success
Okay.
and building out that visual management. So I'm going to work on doing that consistently,
Mm-hmm.
and we'll check in at that at the end of the month and how that's helping me get to these goals that I had already set.
Yep.
And how it's helping me be successful in those goals. There are a few other ones that are going to get worked in there as well. But we'll definitely be trying to build the system, because again, the area that I have success is where I have a system that works well for me that I use all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And so by having a system that I can use to accomplish those outcomes and really getting something that I can attune to and get to, helping me get to those outcomes, even if it means I have to have more structure, that's what I need to do.
So it's learning about what really works for you
Yeah,
and setting it up to make it work for you.
absolutely. Anything else that you can think of for our end of the quarter?
I think I really want to say, as much as it didn't go as well as I planned, for me, it wasn't a failure. It wasn't a disappointment, because I actually learned a lot about myself,
Mm-hmm.
about the way that I approach things.
Yeah.
And the way that maybe I think I should be approaching things, and that wasn't really the way that works best for me. So I think it really did help set a good basis for me to move forward.
I agree. And I think I had a very similar learning in terms of setting up my system and figuring out what's going to work for me. And sometimes you have to go through what seems like a failure to help get you to that success that way, so that you can learn about what works.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll keep on trying.
Sounds good.
All right. And with that, we'll wrap up today's episode. What do we have on deck for next week?
Next week, we're going to be talking about our past relationships with money.
So, yeah. So we're going to be talking a little bit about what it was like growing up for each one of us, what our relationship with money has been like over the years, and how that influences what we do today.
Yep.
And in the meantime, we hope you live a spirited life. Topics and information on A Spirited Life should not be taken as financial advice and should be considered for entertainment purposes only.